Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Courtney Carlson here, and I am here with Tracey Napier, and we met a few weeks ago at a speaking event, and I just really loved what she was sharing. So she is an intuitive life coach, a speaker, and an author of Get Changed and How to Become the Master of Your Own Life. She's the host of the Tracey Napier podcast and helps women get out of survival mode into their real or authentic selves. And if you know me and you've been following me long enough, that is just my vein as well. I lived through that in my own life. I came from a really traumatic childhood and was stuck in survival for probably a good 20 years. It wasn't until I hit 30 that I really started to build a life out of survival mode. So I think that's what drew me to you and the work that you do. I just thought, oh, someone just like me, doing the same kind of work. And so I really believe in this change and that women can take the keys back in their own life and feel that self-empowerment and to walk in, who they are. But I do want to hear from you. So Tracey, tell us what you do and why you do it and why you love it.
Yeah, so this is a new path for me. Just a long story short, I was in the mortgage industry for 26 years and I was laid off in December of 2022. And I knew immediately that God was closing a door. I was miserable in my job, absolutely miserable. It was the worst possible job for me. And so I knew that God was closing a door and opening the another door for me, and a completely different one. But I had been living passively my entire life, and I kept praying to God, like, God, please just bring the right people and the right circumstances into my life at just the right time. And I trust you to do that. It was all passive, like I'm waiting for God to do this for me. And yeah, He can do that. But at the same time, He was waiting for me to step into my power and create the life that I wanted. And so when I got laid off, I quickly realized that he was saying, okay, you want a new life, then go create it. I'm giving you this opportunity. And so around that time, I started really becoming intuitive. I usually call myself psychic. I know some people don't like that word, but I have been able to receive guidance from my angels and spirit guides, and I was being guided to write a book. And I thought, I've never written a book before, but okay. And so I started writing a book. And a few weeks into it, I received a message. I heard and I saw the words, Get Changed, How to Become the Master of Your Own Life. And I knew immediately that that was supposed to be the topic and title of my book. And I had just gotten laid off not too long before. And I thought, I am unemployed, still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, and you want me to write a book on mastering life?
Yeah.
Like, you have the wrong person.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I realized, literally the last chapter as I was writing it, I realized the whole book was really about learning how to step into your power and create the life that you want. And I knew that the book was just as much for me as it was for the readers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. I can relate to, I came from heavy in religion and I speak in churches and things like that. And what I see women do is what you're saying and what I did too. You sit back and you just say, okay, God, I receive it. And there is a beauty in surrender and humility, but it's not staying stuck and it's not doing anything. And so I see women say there too, where it's like, okay, whatever God has for me will just come my way. And I'm always like, yeah, but what if he wanted you to walk around the block and that's where the thing was? And
Right.
so I felt the same way. God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I felt like he would lean in and say, what do you want to do? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that question scared me because I thought, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. And so every time he would ask me that, I'd be like, well, I would just kind of piece, well, I want this kind of life and I want to do this, and then the more I went on this journey and the more he would ask me, it got clearer that I'm like, oh, I actually really love this. I love having these conversations. I love change and transformation. I love, traveling and doing what I'm doing. So yeah, and I think God gave us free will for a reason in
Mhm.
partnering. And I think there's a trust there. Like God's like, I created you. I know you. I know what you lived through. I know what you're going to say and I know how you're going to do it. Now go do it. And so sometimes we get to grow in that maturity of God actually trusts me with what he gave me. It's like the story of the talents in the Bible where it's like, did you hide your talents or did you say, okay, this is what God gave me, I'm going to go use it for him? And I think he's like delighted and happy that we're doing something with what he gave us and not frustrated or mad that we're not doing his will. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think for me, I enjoy writing poetry, for example, and I am being guided to write and to speak. And and my logical mind is like, well, people don't make money writing poetry and books. Like most people don't, right? Like, how can I make a living out of this? But I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't question God. God can make anything happen. If He's telling you to write, then you need to write. Use your gifts and talents that He gave you. So I know that He gave me the gift of creativity.
Mhm.
I've always enjoyed poetry. I've never, like, I rarely write, like, historically, I've rarely written. But I remember growing up thinking, I can write poetry. Like, I always had a fascination with it. But I've never, like, I didn't use that gift. And now I'm being told, like, use your gift. You can write. And so I'm going to honor God and do what, use the gift He's given me to use.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. But that's where you kind of surrender. And that's that give and take. Like, I take the action and then surrender to the results. We'll see what comes of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So and I love that you just did this actually. Because we're talking about rewiring the brain, and you kind of just did that in your conversation with yourself, and that's how I see it too. Is when you have a thought come up, like I can't make money at this, I can't do this, I don't have the ability, whatever, and then you stopped yourself and said, wait a minute, what if I can, but and the rewiring of that belief system. I was just talking about this earlier, is that our thoughts, and I know you know this, but for the audience, our thoughts create our emotions, and then our emotions spur us to action. And so if you're thinking like, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, people won't listen to me, blah, 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 it's then what kind of emotion is that creating in you? And then you're probably not going to take as bold of an action or as bit, risk in an action or whatever, as opposed to thinking, wow, God delights in me and I'm enough and he wants me to bring my poetry or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is,
Yeah.
to the world, and he sees me as lovely and good and kind and all these things. What emotion does that create in you? And then the action you take from that place is safety. Like, I can't mess this up, I'm supposed to do this, I'm
Right.
good enough for this. um, but how do you think about it in that kind of rewiring process of your brain?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard this before. It's a lot and I've heard it a lot in the self-help arena, but your beliefs are powerful, right? So what you believe, you think.
Yeah,
What you think, you feel. What you feel, you do, and what you do produces results.
yeah,
And those results reinforce your original belief. So what you were just saying, what you think is what you feel, your emotions. And if you believe and think that you're not good enough, then your actions ultimately will reinforce that belief. And so you will hold yourself back. You're not going to be all that God created you to be. And so that's my my thoughts on the belief. So I kind of remind myself of that. Okay, if I'm holding myself back when, it's not if, it's when I'm holding myself back, I think, okay, what's my underlying belief here? What do I really believe about myself? What's holding me back? What am I afraid of is gonna happen? And then I think, okay, well, where does that fear come from? Okay, usually it comes from childhood. Sometimes I don't know where it came from. And I just kind of go with the feeling, okay, well, I don't know where it came from, but I know that this is how I'm feeling right now. How can I shift that?
Yeah.
Because I know it's holding me back. And so it's just kind of walking through even baby steps to shift your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And just for example, I have a cleft palate and it creates challenges with my squeaky voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I always let it hold me back. Unconsciously, I didn't say, oh, I'm not gonna, use my voice.
Yeah.
Um, I guess maybe in a way I did. But I didn't consciously think, oh, I'm gonna hold myself back.
Right.
And I was just so shy and I didn't want to be around people because I was afraid of being made fun of. I was being afraid of judged and rejected. And because that's what I experienced growing up. And so even as an adult, I refrained from speaking. I didn't have many friends. And it wasn't until my mom passed away, and it was in 2018, and I started going on this journey of healing and self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started learning about belief systems. And I realized that I had a belief that my voice would always limit me. And as I worked through that, I realized, well, it was never my voice that limited me. It was my thoughts and beliefs about it that did. And that really changed everything for me. I
Yeah.
said, okay, well, let's work on changing my beliefs because now that I'm starting to talk more and interact more with people,
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing that there's so much beauty in that connection. And I'm not being made fun of. I mean, it's certainly not that I know of. Maybe there's a one-off person that behind my back. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
But I feel so supported and loved and welcomed. And I held myself back for so long. And now I'm realizing how much I missed out.
Yeah.
And so just shifting that mindset has changed everything for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have a good point there too. And like, there's a vulnerability in talking about this, so we can keep it logical and like rewiring your brain. And I love that conversation too. But you're really bringing in the vulnerability of facing your hurts and wounds and fears. And we all have those. It is funny to hear people talk about what they're insecure about because on the outside you never see it that way. You're actually like, oh, I love her, and I never really thought. And they're like, oh, I hate my forehead or my nose or my this or that. And you're like, really? I okay. And it is so wild, but it's so real to the person because of our experiences and because of that vulnerability of putting yourself out there at a young age and not coming back with that, which not a lot of kids do because kids aren't really welcoming and loving and supporting and all of that thing.
Yeah.
So but it's just interesting that this work, I call it healing, I call it self-discovery too, because in working through your own areas where you're blocked or stuck, it's usually hung up on those heart wounds or pain that you went through or fear that you're going to get the same experience that you got as a kid.
Mhm.
And so, but there's like, it's good to know that too, that we're all in the same boat of facing our own hurdle, our own obstacle right in front of us. And it's good to hear people say, I tried it. I put myself out there. I did the thing that I was afraid of. And it came back. And I think there's also, I don't know if you've experienced this, but there's also I don't know what to call it, maybe like there's a weight lifted off of you, even if you do get the experience you're afraid of. So, like, I'm a teacher during with the school district. I teach middle school, And when I first started teaching, I had all of my insecurities and friendships come up with my coworkers and teachers because we have 20,000 teachers. And I found myself subconsciously like wanting to fit in and wanting to be invited to, you know what I mean? Like just it felt like
Yeah.
high school all over again, where I was like, I want to be friends. I want to go paddleboarding with them. I want to go. And I hadn't experienced this. I went to an event a few weeks ago that some of them happened to be there. And I realized for just a few of them that they really didn't enjoy me. Now, that could be their stuff, that could be my stuff. I don't know, but I found some relief in realizing, okay, Courtney, those people, they don't really like you. Okay. And it wasn't everybody. It was just like three of them that I thought of. And then, obviously there's more that I'm like, but these guys, they really enjoy you. And those are the people that you connect with. I don't know.
Mhm.
I just felt like this also this release that I'm going to be okay. Like it's
Yeah.
okay that people didn't like you and or they just couldn't relate to you the way you want to. Maybe it had nothing to do with you, but it felt like I could put those fears to bed because I didn't have to worry anymore. It was like, yeah, actually you're right. You did experience like whatever rejection if you want to call it and you lived through it and you're okay. I felt
Yeah.
really empowered anyway. I
Yeah. I feel like
next
that.
week. Yeah.
I love that because to me, when I hear at least, it feels like you have a healthy sense of self-worth. Like you know that some people will love and value you, and some people are just not meant to be in your path. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. Everyone's not gonna like all of us. Like I don't particularly love everyone,
Yeah.
and no, everyone's not gonna particularly love me. And so you just need to accept that, and it's okay. It's not personal. It's
Yeah.
just life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when you said about kind of putting yourself out there and we're more like than different because I like through the pandemic I was one of those who just stayed home. I didn't want to go out. I was a scaredy cat. And then I finally started getting out 2021-ish. And I created a meetup group because I needed to meet people. I wanted to meet people. And, I don't drink alcohol. I used to, but I don't anymore. And I felt like a lot of the meetup groups were around alcohol. And I thought, oh, I
Yeah.
don't interest in that. So I created my own group. And it got me out of my comfort zone. And I met some people that were wonderful. But during that process, I realized that we're more alike than different. And it really gave me comfort because I thought, I felt like I was struggling more than the average person to meet new people, to make friends, to get out even, to even meet new people. And I realized through that process that most people I encountered would make comments like, I'm so glad to put this together. I have a hard time getting out. I have a hard time making friends. I have a hard time meeting new people. And I thought, oh, I mean, it's not just me. It's kind of a collective feeling. So I don't know why that gave me so much comfort.
Yeah.
I really feel like it was just me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a common belief for most people is, we tend to look at other people and think they can do it, but I really struggle with it. Especially when it is an insecurity or something. They may struggle with different things, but if they're good socially, it's like, oh, they got that and I didn't kind of thing. But also, I think it takes people like you and I who are willing to step out in like leadership, really. And leadership doesn't have to look any way other than, hey, I want this in my own life. Like, I'm a big advocate for you don't have to stay stuck in wanting like someone else to make you feel something. So when I think of self empowerment, and I teach a class at the college, but I teach them like if you're wanting your spouse to make you feel loved or wanted, or you're wanting your, students or whoever to make you feel like you're enough. And so often we put these desires on people like, oh, I need this person to do it. I need this person to do it. And I always welcome them into the idea of what if you created that for yourself? And it's possible, it's doable. Because I always felt like I could stay wanting someone to give me this emotion that they can't really give that to me, or
Yeah.
I can say, what am I wanting from this person, and let that be like a roadmap or a image of what I need to do. And so that's kind of how, I don't know how I got on this tangent, sorry, but I do love it. But I let those be a roadmap to like, okay, why am I so fixated on this group or this person or my spouse, and what do I want from them? And instead of shaming that, like, write it down. I did this even this last year with my boss. And I realized I wanted him to validate me, and I wanted him to see me, and I wanted him to be like, you're the best teacher ever. And so these were really good things in my heart. So I wrote those all down. But the thing you have to do is untie those from the source you're trying to go to. And so once I realized, oh, I just want to be validated, and like somebody sees me as a good teacher, I
Mhm.
started doing that for myself. I started going, wow, Courtney, you are such a good teacher. You're doing such a good job. And I was getting that need filled within myself. Whereas before, I was just hoping that someone else could do that for me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I love teaching people that. And it's funny to watch their faces because at first they're like, no, I don't think that. Like, they really struggle with, like, no, they make me feel this way and they're not doing XYZ. And I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? How are you going to bring yourself, what you need and what you need to feel? And again, that empowerment piece of, like, I think it's beautiful when we can connect with each other and give that to each other. But if you're
Mhm.
solely looking to other people, that's when it can be like not good for you because you don't get what you need, right?
Yeah, it's
So you realize,
a matter of, yeah, I think it's a matter of recognizing your unmet needs
mhm,
and addressing them. And that you do that through self-love, self-worth, and it's a process.
yeah,
I actually talked a little bit about this in my book.
okay,
And it's a matter of learning to love yourself and value yourself for who you are and know that you're worthy.
mhm,
And it's hard for a lot of us to do that if we haven't, um, you know, if we haven't learned to truly love ourselves for who we are. And so it's a journey, but it's an important one because if you don't love yourself, it's kind of hard to expect to receive that unconditional love from someone else. So the relationships you attract are a mirror of yourself. So how much worth you believe you have or how much you love yourself. And so it's just a reflection of that. So if you don't like the relationships you're in or have, then take a look within and see what see what areas you may need to focus on giving yourself more love and developing that self-worth.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Oh,
really
yeah. Yeah, it's hard to recognize that sometimes. Like, oh no, he made me so mad. He did this to me, or
good.
she did that. She walked away. She abandoned me.
Yeah, mhm,
Okay, well, it doesn't mean what they did is right. You don't condone it. But
yeah,
how did that, what did you, like, what was your contribution in that relationship? How did you attract that?
mhm,
I'm a big believer that we attract who we are. Like, so you attract the people in your life based on how much you love yourself, your worth, your beliefs. And so take a look within and see what you can maybe shift a little bit to bring in more of what you want into your life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you in that. And I think there's like I don't know if you feel this, and I haven't talked to a lot of people about this one, but I feel like God gives us the opportunity to face what we need to overcome over and over again, right? It's just like a gentle, like placing it in front of us. And so even when you're saying, like, I need to work on self-love, or someone needs to work on self-love, and why am I in this type of relationship? I think those things are like invitations that if we can take them as like a sweet invitation of like, okay, this is something that I've allowed to have, and why, and really go on that self-discovery journey of figuring out like, okay, I actually don't want a relationship like that in my life. It's again that opportunity to face what you're saying, like everything inside of us to choose something different, to recreate something else. But I think there's a gentleness there, even in understanding, like, why do I put up with this? What's going on here? Like a curiosity to figure out, like, ultimately, this is not what I want in my life. I want to work through this and get to where I'm, having a higher standard, or receiving more love, or setting the tone differently for my life, or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is really interesting and doable. I think if each one of us can be on this journey of figuring out, it's like the path in front of you. And it's
Mhm.
wild how we know exactly like the next step. We know what needs to happen in our lives. And again, God's just going to bring it up and be like, hey, are you ready to face this? Are you ready to push past it? Are you ready to heal it and put it to bed? Are you ready to stop believing that lie? Um,
Yeah.
and so we're all facing that thing right in front of us. So God's like, are you ready? Are you ready to do this now? So
Yeah.
yeah, I find it really empowering and interesting, and I love this kind of work.
Yeah. It's interesting because lately I have been guided to really embody the person that I want to be. So this, what I'm envisioning as my future self, although I don't want to envision it as my future, I want to embody her.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that I know that I can be, the serene, calm woman who is a poet, who is a keynote speaker, and all the things I want to be and feel, like embody her. Imagine what would she do? What would be her mindset? What would she say? What action would she take? And so I'm being guided to go down that path and try to fully embody her. And so I'm in that right now, trying to embody the person that I want to be and know that I am. And so I'm working on that right now.
Yeah.
And it's a new journey for me to look at it from that perspective. But I can see how helpful it is already. So, yeah.
I love that. So, what is some of your process, and what's the work that you're doing with that? How are you?
Really, it's a constant reminder, like bringing myself back. Okay, what would she do? What would the empowered version of myself do? Because I find myself retreating back to fear a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get out of this fear mindset. And so, okay, well, what would she do? Oh, she would take a deep breath and she would journal and or ask herself, what am I afraid of? What happened? What am I supposed to learn from this? And it's shifting my mindset and just pausing. And so again, it's new. It's really within the past week or so that I've been really excited to do that. And so it's now kind of a constant reminder, really, for myself. Okay, wait, what would she do? Wait, wait, don't go down that way.
No, that's
I'm
really,
really
really,
afraid of. What are you afraid of?
that's really, really good. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
I had a mentor. This is one of my favorite things she taught me is when I would stay stuck in like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And it's so funny that it's little and that it works. Because she said, well, what if you did ask yourself, what if I did know what to do? And so again, it's so little. But when I feel like, man, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And then I say, but if I did know what to do, I would. And I just let the thing come out. And it's amazing how you have the solution for your own problem every
yeah.
single time. I'm like, oh, so I've learned to stop and say, okay, if I did know what to do, I would blah 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 blah, and I write it all out, and I'm like, oh, look at that, it's an action plan. I just didn't want to do it, I was just
Yeah,
afraid to step out, or I was afraid to show that, because
I
sometimes
love that.
stay in that I don't know, I'm stuck or whatever. And it's not always true. It's I'm afraid of something. And so I always use it as accountability because once I write it out, I'm like, okay, here's a 10-step thing that you just came up with. Now you have to go do it. You know,
Oh,
I can't write it out and then just push it away. It's like, nope, you just came up with the solution to what you're complaining about. So if you don't go do those things, then you can't complain
no
anymore.
complaint. Yeah. I love
So
that. Thanks for
I love
Amy. I
that.
love that. I'm gonna incorporate that.
Yeah. She's like,
Thank
yeah, I even use it for dinner sometimes because, you know, with kids, you're like, oh, I'm so sick of coming up with dinner.
you.
But if I do know what to do for dinner, I would, you know, and it doesn't
Yeah,
always mean make dinner. Sometimes it's like I would order pizza, and it's like great. That's the thing,
that's what I
you know.
do.
So yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for this conversation. It's been really uplifting to me, and I love finding people on the same journey, you know, because sometimes you talk to other people, like friends in your life that are not doing the same work, which is fine, but they just look at you like a deer in the headlights or like,
Right.
okay, Courtney's talking about self-empowerment again. You know, so when you get to talk to someone who's like, I love self-empowerment, I love rewiring the brain, it's like,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
Um,
thank
so
you for having me or chatting with me.
yes, and I will have for everyone watching, I will have Tracey's links to everything in the description so you can reach out to her, listen to her podcast, find her book, all the things. Do you work one-on-one with women or with
Me
clients
too.
as well?
Yeah, it's really one coaching.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can find everything in the description. But yeah, thank you for having this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining us. And we just follow along for more conversations like this. We really aim to empower you, to equip you. We don't want to gatekeep what we're doing. We want to be those thought leaders that are right out there in front of you, revealing the struggle, revealing the hope, revealing the change that can happen. And so we love that you're here and thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.